coyotes have been spotted roaming through Central Park.
That's right. At least 2 have been seen in recent weeks. Fox Eyes Kendall Green has more on what may be behind the coyote comeback.
These days, everything's a surprise, especially in Central Park.
After they've been spotted several times in the past couple of weeks, coyote sightings are reminding us it's not just people prowling the people's lawn.
I think 2 months ago.
2 months ago where?
Somewhere here, they cross.
Oh, you've seen them.
Yeah, I seen them.
Photographer and naturalist Chris St. Lawrence captured this video of the pair of coyotes he spotted last week. He caught 2 on camera, one roaming on the east edge of Central Park, just feet from 5th Avenue, before it scurried back into the woods. This photo was shot and posted to X, where the user David Lay says he watched them roam freely throughout the park for about an hour. As for St. Lawrence, this was just one of several sightings in different locations over the years.
It's crazy. Forget just seeing them in the park, but seeing them so close to the, busy city streets and stuff.
I study them all over the city.
Chris Nagy is the Director of Research and Education at Mianus River Gorge.
But I believe it was 2019 when the first coyote was seen in Central Park that actually kind of stayed there.
Sharing, since there's less cover on the trees in the park, sightings are much easier, more frequent this time of year. So those who spot a coyote or 2 in Central Park shouldn't be alarmed, but remain cautious. Nagy suggests those with dogs keep them on leash, since they'll be likely to try and chase them. Avoid feeding them and try not to startle them by running away, making sudden movements. And of course, keep your distance.
It may watch you. It's used to people. It has to be to live in Central Park. So it may not immediately run away, or else it'd be running away 24 hours a day.
But this park goer's dog has put a coyote or 2 on a run a few times in Central Park.
She couldn't get the coyote because they run faster than her.
She was trying to chase them?
Yeah.
Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
Yeah.
Love in Central Park.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds like something dumb my dog would do. Try to chase a coyote.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right, dozens dressed in hazmat suits at a local duck farm.
Yeah, what's being done after bird flu was detected in its flock? Plus,
there is only so much we can do to protect immigrants. The federal government has said they will enforce immigration law whether they receive support from cities or not.
The commissioner of the mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs getting candid with Fox 5 as the city braces for possible raids.
You're watching the 10 o'clock news.
Migrant communities across the country bracing for possible raids. The Pentagon will begin deploying as many as 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border in the coming days.
all right, deportations in cities like New York could start soon. Our Jessica Formoso sat down with the commissioner of the mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs to see how they're preparing.
On day 1, I will launch the largest deportation program.
Before he was sworn in, President Donald Trump was vocal about initiating the largest mass deportation in U.S. history. And in his first day in office,
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
while details of how and when are scarce, the commander-in-chief has said he plans to mobilize the U.S. military to enforce the operation, an operation that has many migrants on edge.
No me siento seguro.
I do not feel safe. I do not feel safe. Jason Gonzalez arrived in New York City from Venezuela with his wife and 3 children in October. They've been in the city's care ever since. First placed in Floyd Bennett Field, a makeshift shelter on a national park, which is federal property.
Teníamos mucho temor.
We were very afraid because these are federal lands where we fear that with President Trump's return to the presidency, we could witness raids here. That shelter was closed earlier this month. So what would mass deportations look like across the country?
They're talking about workplace raids, family separations, strict restrictions on new immigrants, and potentially deporting, they say, 11 to 20 million people.
We have more than 16 million people in the United States who don't have full rights to be here.
Musafer Chisti is an attorney and senior fellow and director of the Migration Policy Institute at New York University School of Law. He believes deportations will happen. As to how many people could be deported, that remains to be seen.
I think you have to take the administration on its word that there will be some kind of mass deportation. What mass is, no one knows.
Laws, due process, he says, need to be followed, but the fear is real among the community. Jason worries schools and other sensitive locations may be targets. We are training our children to know what to do if something happens. It makes me very afraid that they could pick me up in the streets and never make it back home to my children. We are placing all their documentation in their backpacks, telephone numbers, so that they are prepared.
It's important not to allow panic set in.
Manuel Castro is the commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Over the last 2.5 years, he says, over 220,000 asylum seekers have arrived in New York City. Today, 51,000 remain under the city's care. That's not counting the hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants living for years across our city. Does the city have a plan?
First thing is to make sure that our city staff at all levels is trained on our sanctuary laws and our sanctuary city policies. Now, as city employees, we cannot cooperate with enforcement, but we also cannot interfere with enforcement.
But what will the city do if such plan is carried out?
There is only so much we can do to protect immigrants. The federal government has said they will enforce immigration law whether they receive support from cities or not.
Has the mayor or yourself or anyone in the administration been able to speak to the incoming administration? Have they been able to prepare you for anything?
There's so much that's still unknown.
Mayor Adams, who has met with President Trump, has been vocal about deporting migrants who have committed violent crimes.
People who commit these violent crimes must be addressed. And that is our conversation with ICE.
For now, all Jason and his family can do is be prepared. The first few weeks are going to be very scary for all of us.
I did ask the commissioner if there's a plan in place, if families are separated, is there a place they can go to get information? The commissioner telling me that they're thinking through what a scenario like that would look like. In the newsroom, I'm Jessica Formoso, Fox 5 News.
And for the latest on President Trump's immigration actions, be sure to download our free Fox local app. Just scan the QR code you see on your screen.
A protest in Brooklyn tonight after the deadly beating of an inmate, Robert Brooks, at a correctional facility in central New York. Community advocates disrupted subway service at the Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center station as they called for the corrections officers involved to be arrested. Brooks died on December 10th after an encounter with officers a day earlier. Body cam footage of the attack shows officers kicking and punching Brooks as he was restrained. The 14 workers involved have been placed on administrative leave, and Governor Hochul has directed the Corrections Department Commissioner to begin the process of terminating them. New York AG Letitia James also appointed a special prosecutor to investigate.
The NYPD needs help identifying suspects in 3 robberies near the campus of NYU. Police say in 2 of the robberies, these suspects asked the victims for donations before threatening them, then stealing more than $2,000 through an ATM withdrawal and mobile payment apps. In the other robbery, the suspects asked a man to help them exchange money, then followed him to an ATM and stole $1,400. If you recognize these men, you are being asked to call Crime Stoppers.
And investigators flocking to a local duck farm.
That's right. After more than 100,000 birds had to be put down to prevent the further spread of bird flu.
And they're meant to heat up the cold winter months before tourism picks back up again in the city. But is the deep freeze impacting Broadway and restaurant weeks?
Bird flu fears hitting close to home.
It all comes after more than 100,000 birds had to be euthanized at a local island, Long Island duck farm. Fox 8's Jody Goldberg has the latest.
Dozens dressed in hazmat suits walked out of Crescent Duck Farm in Aquabog after the oldest duck farm on Long Island confirmed a case of bird flu.
Unfortunately, in a situation like this, you basically have to start over again.
Start over after the 100-year-old farm that's now under quarantine had to euthanize its entire flock of more than 100,000 birds to prevent further spread.
The disease is carried by wild birds, and all it takes is one of them defecating into an animal pen. And if it lands on the feed or it lands on the ground, it can then spread throughout your flock.
Suffolk County officials are now tasked with talking to and testing workers that have been exposed.
We're going to test them for H5N1 and also offer what they call prophylactic measures. In this case, it would be Tamiflu.
This local outbreak comes just weeks after a person from Louisiana became the first in the U.S. to die from the H5N1 virus. So far, there has been no reported person-to-person spread.
We're not so much worried about infecting the public as honestly we are infecting our birds.
Now, according to the CDC, there have been more than 1,400 outbreaks here in the United States since 2022 that have impacted over 136 million birds. And here in New York, 28 flocks, including this one, have tested positive.
A dime-sized piece of material, usually fecal material, can spread to thousands of birds.
To prevent the spread, experts say take down bird feeders and don't free-range your backyard birds to limit interaction between wild birds and backyard poultry. Animal advocates have concerns if the virus were to mutate.
When avian influenza has infected humans, it has about a 50% morbidity rate, and COVID has a 0.5% morbidity rate.
As of now, the future of Long Island's last standing duck farm remains uncertain. In Aquabog, Long Island, Jody Goldberg, Fox 5 News.
Well, this dangerous cold really couldn't come at a worse time.
Restaurant and Broadway weeks just got underway, but is the deep freeze keeping people from taking advantage of the deals? We're going to take a close look.
And if you have a friend who always seems to make their humble bragging sound so organic, they could be using something called the boomerasking technique.
Now's the perfect time to grab some bargains with both Broadway Week and New York City Winter Restaurant Week happening.
All right, but Old Man Winter could be throwing a wrench in the works. We sent Kendall Green to find out if the dangerous cold is getting in the way of people taking advantage of these amazing savings.
Lido in Harlem is one of 600 restaurants citywide fired up for the largest restaurant week in the country, where new and old customers can escape the cold and explore their price-fixed menu, getting more bang for their buck.
I love the vibes here. It's very comfortable, good nightlife, and great music. They always play great music here.
Bianca Horns, the general manager of the Lido Group.
January and February can be very slow, and it's a great way to invite them back in for a great value.
Well, despite the freeze we're feeling, they've got a strong turnout, since Restaurant Week and Broadway Week together offer more reasons to dine out or catch a show.
So it's a great opportunity for us to lean into New Yorkers coming and experiencing, again, great shows on Broadway, and then, of course, any of the restaurants throughout the 5 boroughs.
The cold, is that stopping you at all?
Never.
Never?
No.
Are you a theater lover?
I am. If you come and want to go to Broadway, then you're going to be here, right?
A part of Broadway Week, tickets for shows are 2 for 1. This couple, straight off their flight from Atlanta to the ticket counter, lucked out.
I want to see Hell's Kitchen tonight, and then tomorrow we're hoping to see the Louis Armstrong Story.
So everything from Wicked to Chicago to Hell's Kitchen are all available. I will say tickets are going fast.
Even during the freeze, customers are warming up to the deals on Broadway and in cozy restaurants at a discounted rate.
I told her, I was like, this is a great deal for Restaurant Week, and they had a really good menu laid out, so I was very excited to see that they had Restaurant Week going on here.
Now, for those willing to brave the cold, it could work out in your benefit. You can take advantage of Restaurant Week, Broadway Week, Must-See Week, and Hotel Week from now through February 9th. We'll have more information on our website. That's fox5ny.com. That's the latest from Harlem. Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
Yeah, it's a real issue for sure. It's not Very busy on the streets that I've seen.
Nick, it's hard to just get out and maneuver around the streets.
Yeah, and if you do, you're walking at a pretty quick pace to try to stay warm. We're slowly going to come out of this Arctic plunge here over the next couple of days, but be patient. We really aren't going to see the good thaw take hold until we get to about Sunday into Monday. By then, we'll be well above freezing. But it's another cold night. Still have some clouds out there, and the temperature went nowhere today. Started off at 10 this morning in the city, 20 for the high, way below the average of 39.27. We will get back to that number on Sunday. 61 record high, 0 record low. So again, none of these temperatures are record-producing numbers, but again, air temperatures are down to 0 in some of the suburbs again tonight, and the wind chill, of course, has been around there too. Sunrise 7:14, now setting past 5 o'clock at 5:02. Currently holding at 19 in the city. A lot of clouds with a westerly wind. It's picked up a little bit in speed now. Humidity's dry. Pressure is still very strong. It is falling off a little though. 30.46 as that ridge of Arctic high pressure slides slowly off the east coast. Okay, so we have the temperatures that have gone back to the single numbers. Allentown, Sussex, Poughkeepsie there. 8 in Belmar as well. Same for East Hampton there at 7. 12 White Plains, and then high teens for the city back down to Newark. And again, wind is calm or kind of variable really, about 5 to 10 miles per hour or so. Again, highs for the day, very similar to yesterday, right? We stayed in the upper teens across the Hudson Valley to North Jersey, made it to the low 20s from Bridgeport northward onto the east end. And Belmar, the winter on the map there, 28 degrees, but it's been cold all through the northeast. Providence, 22. 17 there to Rochester. Look at State College at 12 today. 25 in the nation's capital. 15 Cleveland. The good news, though, is to the west. Chicago, 25. Yesterday they were 1. So big difference for them. Cincinnati was 8 yesterday. They went up to 20. And we broke freezing in Nashville down to Columbia, South Carolina. And again, improvement to Minneapolis, 29 today. Remember, yesterday they were 7. Kansas City was 16 yesterday. They're 33. So they're turning the corner here, and that milder weather eventually will come our way. Houston that had the snowstorm, well, they recovered 2 to 47. Again, we'll see temperatures warm up there slowly. They can thaw it as well. LA, 74. 60 in Vegas, back to 40s in Seattle. Look at Miami, chilly there for them, 69. Okay, let's go look at our close-up satellites. Here's some of that cloud cover rolling on through. No big deal. That system off to the north, that's not going to be bothering us at all. It's going to be weakening. Intensity goes by. Again, sort of high pressure kind of building in. That's the system I was talking about. And that's going to be sort of falling apart. So we're not worried about that in our future cast. Just some clouds with it tonight. Down to about 15 in the city. Again, 0 to maybe 5 or 7 degrees in those northern or western colder suburbs. Clouds give way to sunshine tomorrow. We'll get back to about 30. So that's improvement there. Upper 20 suburbs. Back to about 20 tomorrow night in the city and along the coast. Back to 10 in the suburbs. And then, yeah, we'll get to about freezing or just above it on Friday. Slow baby steps here. 15 Midtown tonight. Some single digits of those cold spots with lots of clouds. Tomorrow again, we'll see sunshine and temperatures will be getting back to about 30 degrees. So again, it's not as cold, but still not where we should be. 33 Friday, a little step back Saturday. 15 in the morning, 30 in the afternoon. But there's the upper 30s Sunday and Monday, and even over 40 on Tuesday. How will that feel, right? 37, though, by the time we get to Wednesday. Stephen,
very well. All right, thanks, Nick. Well, as the U.S. prepares to host soccer's biggest event next year, the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup Trophy Tour has already got underway. The launch party took place at Tiffany & Company on Fifth Ave, where the trophy was on display. This marks the start of a 5-month global tour that will have the trophy stop at each city of the 32 competing clubs. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy says the matches will provide an economic boom for his state.
In the immediate term, both the Club Cup and the World Cup will bring in many thousands, hundreds of thousands of visitors, huge economic activity boon, lots of jobs, lots of great football.
Our MetLife Stadium will host 8 games, including the final in June and July of 2026. Well, do you have that one friend or several who always seem to be slipping in a humble brag?
Maybe their approach is something called, what is it?
Boomer asking.
Boomer asking. All right, what is that? We're going to explain. Well, if you've ever faced a dilemma over how to organically slip a humble brag into a conversation, consider your problem solved.
That's right. There's something called boomer asking, and Fox 5's Michelle Ross shows us how it works.
Has a person ever started a conversation with you by asking you a question to then immediately turning the topic of the conversation on themselves? It's called boomer asking, named after the outgoing and incoming arc of a boomerang. It follows a predictable pattern and is a habit people have that takes 3 turns.
It would be like, I ask you, hey, Geraldo, how was your weekend?
and I let you answer, and then I'm like, let me tell you about my weekend. So it tracks this arc of a boomerang. It comes right back around to me.
You may have found yourself in a similar situation.
People do that. They say, like, how are you doing? And it's like, I'm fine, and I've done this today, and I've had that done all week.
Some of my friends said sometimes I do that.
Some say it doesn't mean a person is always selfish, and that they do it thinking they're coming from a good place.
It's usually when they're talking about their struggles, and I try to relate by giving my example. At least that's what I think I was doing.
Right.
But I guess people also receive differently. That's why communication is always key.
Brooks says it's always great to ask genuine follow-up questions. But if you're looking to share something about your life, whether that's complaining, bragging, or something sincere, Brooks says it's best to be direct rather than prefacing it with a question.
It also, I think, comes from a desire to have a conversation be balanced, where you're getting this ping-pongy back and forth. You share something about you in your life, I share something about me. It's just that many of us get the balance wrong and we end up talking too much about ourselves.
On the Upper East Side, Michelle Ross, Fox 5 News.
I thought it had something to do with boomers asking.
Yeah, I think it's like accusing you of being a boomer, but I know it works both ways.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. All right, well, there's more 10 o'clock news straight ahead.
But first, here's what's next on Good Night New York.
All right, the Songwriters Hall of Fame releasing its 2025 inductees. They include George Clinton, the Doobie Brothers, Ashley Gorley, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, the Beach Boys' Mike Love, and Tony McCauley. The inductees represent genres including funk, rock, R&B, country, and more. The 2025 Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony will be held on June 12th at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in Times Square. All right, let's get one last check of the weather, and we know the drill by now, but finally there is some relief somewhere in sight, right next to the cold.
Slowly, we'll be singing a better tune in a couple of days, but until then, it's cold. It's down to the single digits tonight. Again, 2 for Poughkeepsie, 4 in Sussex, 15 Midtown, and even 8 down there at Belmar, and closer to the low and mid-teens along the coastal Long Island into Connecticut. Tomorrow, a little improvement, right? We'll get to about 30 in the city, low 30s, maybe even a break in freezing in central New Jersey, upper 20s north and west. The real relief will come later on in the 7-day here. Friday, 33, that's better, but a little step backwards. Saturday, sunny, about 30. There we go, where we should be. 39 on Sunday, and Monday a little breezy on Sunday, and maybe windy, but low 40s for Tuesday, and still no big snowstorm in sight.
All right, sounds good, Nick. Thank you, and don't go anywhere. Good Night New York with Crystal Young and Ryan Christopher is next at 11, and you do not want to miss it.
All right, and that does it for us tonight. If you missed any part of the 10 o'clock news, you can always catch an encore on our free streaming app, Fox Local.
Just scan the QR code on your screen and download the free Fox Local app on your phone where you can stream our newscast anytime. Have a great night.